All right, I've been given the high sign that says we are rolling. So I would like to call us to order in accordance with South Carolina Code of Laws 1985, Section 30-4-80-E. The following have been notified of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting: the Herald, the Charlotte Observer, CN2, and WRHI. If I could ask everybody to please join me first in a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, board. You have all received a copy of the agenda. Were there any adjustments or corrections?
I had none.
All right, then that will stand as approved with unanimous consent. And we're going to start off with some special recognition. So I'm not sure if you're going to do that first or, okay?
Gales, since he is Mr. Young's supervisor last year, right?
Yes, sir.
I'll stand around for the fun part, shake his hand.
All right.
All right. Well, good evening. It is my honor this evening to recognize the Fort Mill High School Career Development Facilitator, Mr. Edward Young. Fort Mill High School and the greater Fort Mill School District have come to count on Mr. Young for far more than is outlined in his job description. He is a career professional, a coach, a mentor, an advocate, an event planner, and so much more. As a career development facilitator, Mr. Young connected high school students with vital information about colleges, the admission process, financial aid, and scholarships. He also understands that college is not the life path for every graduate, and he works hard to connect graduates with employers by setting up job fairs, apprenticeships, and work-based learning opportunities. He helps connect students with career assessments, hosts mock interviews, and assists students with their academic and professional resumes. Mr. Young excelled in these areas, connecting and readying our students for success in high school and beyond. While most may be familiar with Mr. Young's day-to-day responsibilities, he also freely gives of his time and talents to support students outside of his own building. Mr. Young invests in our schools as an involved parent and father. Outside of work, he continues to serve the Fort Mill School District as a member of the School Improvement Council and Athletic Booster Club for Banks Trail Middle. He also facilitates a mentoring program for students of Banks Trail, the Good Wolves Mentoring Program, which focuses on supporting young African-American men developed through mentorship, advocacy, and leadership. Additionally, Mr. Young extends his influence as a coach. He serves as a football coach for Banks Trail, a track coach for Catawba Ridge High School, and leads community athletes over the summer through his work with an athletic nonprofit, the Fort Mill Saints. He is deeply invested in his work within Fort Mill High School and the district. Yearly, he plans and hosts large-scale events from College Application Day to Career Development Week. His leadership was instrumental in the school winning the College Access Champion Award from the College Board for connecting students with opportunities to enroll in college. He also led educators for planning Fort Mill High School's annual Black History Month celebrations. A highlight of this work was last year's Black History Month recognition of the first ever black graduates of Fort Mill High School from the class of 1961. He invited these graduates back to school to share their story and help our students make a real-world connection to integration and the civil rights movement. This event was truly special, as this was the first recognition of these graduates in school history. Events like these demonstrate how much he pours himself into his work and the lives of the students that he serves. So it comes as little surprise that Mr. Young is recognized this evening as the Catawba Region's Career Specialist of the Year.
Thank you. We've got a approval of minutes from our last couple meetings on July 12th and July 20th. Were there any, I'll do them one at a time, July 12th, any adjustments or corrections? All right, those stand as approved. July 20th, any adjustments or corrections?
No, ma'am.
All right, also stand as approved. Ms. Pettis, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am.
No cards, okay. All right, then we've got a special report from a special guest, Mr. Patterson. Interesting to see you on that side instead of over here for a change, so.
Yeah, kind of like it actually to be on this side over here and not up there where you guys are. Dr. Epps, Madam Chair, and the rest of the board, I would like to say thank you for this opportunity to come and speak about the foundation today. And first, I want to say thank you so much for all that y'all do every day for the students and the teachers of the Fort Mill School District. I know what a job it is, a thankless job that y'all have, and just appreciate y'all very much. So, now I'm here to talk about the foundation. A lot of y'all know I'm kind of speaking to the choir a little bit, but for those who may be tuning in or here who don't know about the foundation, we've been around since 2005. We were founded. Started out as providing scholarships for kids to go to college, and it's kind of morphed over the years. And so now we a little bit more than scholarships. We have teacher grants. We also have Classroom Ready program, which is such a phenomenal program. So tonight I'm just going to give you a few little highlights. I'll put on your place one of our flyers that we've come up with this past year. We kind of debuted it at the Clays for a Cause, one of our two fundraising events that we have. And I'll put my glasses on so I can make sure I don't forget anything that I wrote down today. So yes, we have a very successful foundation. We're very proud of what we do here in the Fort Mill School District, especially with the support from you guys, and for certainly the support we have in the community. And I just want to mention some of our partners that we have: Comporium Communications, Domtar, F3 The Fort, those guys are incredible. Founders Federal Credit Union, Piedmont Medical Center, Shellco, and B&A Accountants and Financial Services. Those are some of our main, what we call partners in education, and we greatly appreciate them, and they're one of the reasons why we can do what we do. We also host two successful fundraisers, like I said earlier, our Clays for a Cause and also the Tech Dowling golf tournament. Tech Dowling, of course, being a former superintendent and one of the ones who founded the foundation. It was kind of his brainchild. And those two events this year, we raised $43,000. So we are very proud of that fact that we had the support that we had for those two events. Classroom Ready, as you all know, is where we supply school supplies for kids in need in the district. We are so very proud of that program, and I want to say thanks to Kate Kratzberger and Carrie Sibley, the two chairs of that program. They do a phenomenal job. This year we had roughly 600 applicants for backpacks, and we want every kid in the Fort Mill School District, whether they, you know, the needy ones, as long as anybody, we want those kids to be prepared and classroom ready on day one, just like any other kid in the district, and we're very proud of that. And we probably give out roughly $40,000 worth of supplies every year, and we're very proud of that fact as well. As you can tell, I'm very proud of the foundation. I need to stop saying that so much. So this year, you know, we've in the past, we've always opened up the grants portal, if you will, and we had applications from our incredible teachers in the district. And our phenomenal grant chair, Mr. Jim Dobbins, who's sitting right there in the audience, and I better recognize my other boss, Ms. Pam Martin, our chair of the board, sitting there as well. They kind of keep me straight sometimes. That's a tough job for them. But Jim said, you know, he's seen all the grant applications come in, and we kept seeing over and over that there was a need for books and classroom libraries in the elementary level. And so we kind of looked at things. We said, let's try to be more intentional and make a bigger impact in the classroom. And, you know, to Jim's credit, you know, we came up with this plan to refocus our grants this year. And so we wanted to have a focus on literacy because that's where everything starts. And so the elementary schools is where we focus this year. We will, with the donation that we made a couple of weeks ago, I think it was July 21st, we came here to the district and I gave you all the big old check. I think Leanne's already cashed the other check. They couldn't wait. Anyway, we were able to impact 92 classrooms in the elementary level for their classroom libraries, and that was $766.30 per classroom to put books in those classrooms. So the teachers will have those tools for those kids, and they know their Lexile levels. Y'all, I'm just telling y'all things y'all already know. They can get those books into the kids on their level of what they need. So we're very fortunate to be able to do that. Next year, we hope to kind of focus on the middle and high school, probably not so much on the libraries. We're probably looking at the technology needs, because we even hear through our Classroom Ready program that there are kids who do not have devices at home. And so we're going to be looking at that, working with Mr. Scroggs and Michael with that, of how we can impact those kids. And it'll probably be like a rental type thing where we'll just kind of let them use it throughout the year, and there'll be an incentive for when it's turned back in, because we know things happen and they get lost and damaged and all that good stuff. But that's one of the focuses that we're looking on. And Jim, he keeps looking at me, we got to raise a lot more money, Scott. So you see the look he's giving me right now? That's what he's doing. So anyway, but hopefully we will have continued success with our fundraisers, and certainly with our partners in education. You know, we're very blessed to have those folks that are on board with us and supporting what we do. And back to Classroom Ready, I failed to mention, we did have our Stuff the Bus thing this past weekend at the TKK Walmart. The guys of F3, they've manned that for the past few years. They are just a great group of guys that are so community-minded, and they also do a scholarship through the foundation. I'll mention more about that in just a second, but just can't thank those guys enough in all that they do here in the Fort Mill School District. I'm going to make sure that I don't miss anything. So since 2017, we've probably made an impact just on grants alone, over $310,000. So we're very proud of that fact as well. Scholarships, this year we funded $42,500 in scholarships for kids going to college. And we offer 16 scholarships through the foundation, and we have got a few more in the works that we're hoping to add next year. We're always looking for other ones, and we've actually got one who may just be a Catawba Ridge scholarship, and not because we try to say, hey, we do have 3 high schools now, so all students need to have access to that. But I think it'd be kind of neat to have Catawba Ridge have their own scholarship, which would be really neat. But that's just in the works. But that's really kind of some of the highlights. I'll certainly entertain any questions if y'all have them.
I have some questions,
Mr. Bodie, you're going to ask a question.
and thank you for what you do.
Yes,
Couple
sir.
questions for you. First
sir.
one is there strategic planning when it comes to the makeup of the board?
Yes, we want workers.
Got it? Okay. Gotcha.
We want workers, and we want people with the same passion that we have about the Fort Mill School District and our kids and teachers. That is really that's what we go after. Folks like that are, you know, that have that passion, you know, for the Fort Mill School District, that they want to give back to the kids and the teachers in the classroom. That's our number one goal.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Last question is tons of nonprofits in the area. How do you differentiate?
Man, you know, listen, there's so many great nonprofits in this area. You know, we all support different ones. You know, everybody has a different thing, and they're all phenomenal. But we're just focused on the Fort Mill School District. I mean, that's I guess how we differentiate from others. You know, we're focused on this district of, you know, making sure that we, just like you see in our mission statement, to promote academic excellence in the Fort Mill School District. That is our goal, you know, to do what we can to help. Because we know that teachers have great ideas, and I know that how the school district's hands are tied with the funding coming from Columbia. And I promise I won't get on my soapbox, because I'm speaking to the choir again on that. So we're kind of that conduit that we can kind of help fund some of those ideas that teachers may not be able to get funding from you guys. And so whatever we can do to help that, that's what we're going to do.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
You know, Scott, I would add, especially like there's a lot of nonprofits, and there are a lot of school supply drives. I think one of the things that also differentiates is the partnership that you guys have with the district, with the guidance counselors,
Right.
because you mentioned 600 backpacks, and there is not a official monetary threshold that's required, right?
Right.
It's not that type of an application.
Right.
And oftentimes in the schools, the guidance counselors, the principals, they know who some of those students
Exactly.
are. And so I think they help make that connection where otherwise, without going through the foundation, school supply drives are still beneficial to anybody.
Absolutely.
But especially this year with, you know, everything costing more and all that.
Right.
But I think it's very helpful to have that partnership with the individual schools.
Yeah, and I think we even take
know
that
where
even
it is.
further. I mean, that's a great point, Christy. I mean, excuse me, Ms. Spears. It's kind of weird to. Sorry, I apologize for that. Very interesting point, because I mean, we do try to work very closely with the district and district administration. I mean, just like with Peter, we work with him with the elementary classroom libraries. I mean, because listen, there's a lot of great ideas out there, but we want to make sure that it's within what the district, does, So very, appreciative of Peter and the time that he gave us, and Michael, we've worked with him as well. Just this year, it just worked out where we were just able to, help in the elementary level. But knowing that our focus is next year will probably be the middle and high school. And so, yeah, everything we do, we want to make sure that we're doing it the right way, and we're doing it, the Fort Mill School District way.
And I haven't been in your warehouse in a while, but I know, for example, there's the standard backpack that every kid needs, the pencils and the
Right.
and the paper and the binders and all this stuff, but the TI-84 calculators,
Exactly.
right? Yeah. Or
Which are hard to find sometimes.
right, or thumb drives. There have been times
Right.
over the years where
It's amazing how school supplies has changed over the
and
years.
or
Yeah.
things that came in that didn't really fit an individual student, but the art teacher could really use all of these extra crayons or markers or
Right.
whatever. And so you guys have done a good job of partnering with the schools when you have those kind of things that aren't your standard supplies.
Right, yeah, because we open it up for teachers and, guidance counselors to come in and get, what they need as well, so, yeah.
And Mr. Patterson, correct me if I'm wrong, but on the backpack program and that sort of thing, I believe there are other organizations, like I said, there's different collections around the district, but some of those partner with the foundation and provide.
Yes, I mean,
some
certainly a lot of churches and, that help as
Right.
well. F3, again, I'll just mention them because, they've come and done work there at the warehouse that we've had, and I really can't say enough about those guys. But yes, absolutely, there's a lot of other folks around that certainly partner with us. We have, I think that's where we're blessed. Everybody knows that Classroom Ready, that those classroom supplies are going to our kids in our district who are in need.
Well, and I like the family anonymity that.
Absolutely.
That comes into play with that
Yep.
you're working and partnering with the guidance counselors in the
Right.
different schools, so that a family doesn't feel like they're front and center being called out, oh, my family has a need, or,
And we don't take any pictures of
don't
that
have
event.
that,
No,
right.
we do not.
so I'm grateful for that.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
And I think with the school supply drive, one thing that makes the Fort Mill School District, the foundation, very unique, is that there are so many organizations that focus on elementary ed, which is important, but there are middle schoolers
Yep.
who need help too, and there are high schoolers that need help too. And
And correct me if I'm wrong, I know Celia, who is a ex officio member of the board, I think our middle and high school was one of our largest, I think surpassed the elementary level last year, which is,
we give more than 50%
Yeah.
of the donations
and that's a first.
to the middle and high school, and I think it's important for everybody to understand that we give to students in every single school in our school district. So I know some schools appear to be wealthier than others, but there's need across our district, and
Absolutely.
that need is met. So sometimes I think with other organizations not in
Right.
Fort Mill, they might be focused on one school, but not realize that there are other needs.
We cover
other
all schools,
areas, too.
absolutely. Yep.
Well, thank you
Well, thank you all.
for all that you do.
Now I get to go home, right?
Appreciate y'all. Oh, no,
Stick around,
you
though.
need to stay
Yeah,
Roll
okay.
Time.
for
Sake.
posterity.
I'll leave that to y'all. Y'all got it. Y'all do a good job. Thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Thanks, y'all.
We've got a series of staff reports, starting off with monthly financials and impact fees from Ms. Lordo. Thank you all. Bye, guys.
Good evening. In your packets tonight, we included the monthly financials for June 30th. That's also the end of our fiscal year. These numbers, though, are unaudited. It will be a couple months before all of that is finalized. But year-to-date for the fiscal year, total revenues were $184,780,601. Expenditures were $180,382,703. So we had a positive cash flow or a net income of $4,397,898. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in the next agenda item on the year-end transfer. We did not have any significant delinquent real estate tax collections this month, but we did have probably one of the largest, if not the largest, I can remember in vehicle tax collections for June were $1,388,000 for June, 1.3 million. As far as total tax collections, we did exceed the budget. We were 100%, in excess of 100% of the budget. I think I had shared with you before the last couple months that I was estimating we should come in between 1.2 to 1.5 million over. We were 1.3 million over. It's so nice when that works out. There are some pluses and some minuses, so it's a little bit of coincidence when it gets that close. But overall, tax collections were positive over your budgeted number for this fiscal year.
You typically get
Sure.
your property taxes in a certain time of year, in December. Car, that seems high for the car in 1 month, or is it?
The cars are throughout the year, and it just depends on just the number of vehicles on but we are continuing to see an increase just because of the growth in the community and more vehicles on our roads.
We used to average 800,000.
We were averaging 800,000.
For a while. And
We've had a couple months at 900, so this was unusual to me to see 1.3 million in 1 month.
The average price of a car is considerably higher now too, so that goes right into the calculation.
Yes.
And I think with the shortage of people being able to buy used cars, right? New cars cost more.
Right.
The taxes. Who
It
knows?
does. I reviewed June. Like I say, we are in the middle of the audit, so there will still be some adjustments. I don't expect anything significant, but I have not received the final sign-off from the county on tax numbers yet. But do you have any questions about June before we talk about impact fees?
Yes.
Okay?
So the first one is, if you would, and I know it's in a different line item, but this is regarding the free lunch program.
Yes.
Can you kind of share with the community, just reiterate that process?
Sure.
Please.
So the school cafeteria program or student nutrition is completely separate from these numbers from the general fund. It is an enterprise or special revenue fund. It has to be self-supporting. Prior to COVID, we did, like all districts, charge a per meal price for breakfast and lunch. With the pandemic, the federal government initiated a program whereby they provided free breakfast and lunch to all students regardless of income level. Students did not have to complete any type of paperwork application. We recently learned this summer that Congress did not extend that for this upcoming school year, somewhat to our surprise. We anticipated it could more than likely go another year, or we could have a year's notice, but they did not extend it. So that forced us to have to go back and reinstate our meal prices to sustain our program. But we did choose to set our meal prices at the pre-COVID level. We did not bring to you a recommendation to increase meal prices for this upcoming school year. It was going to be the same as it was prior to the federal free program.
Thank you.
So the process right now is underway for folks to fill out, because now they have to
Correct. So
apply
we
for-
strongly encourage our families who feel like they may be eligible for the program to fill out an application. They're online. They could contact us. They're at the schools. To go ahead and fill out a free and reduced meal application, and we can start that process immediately.
Any idea how prior to COVID, we were 20-something% free and reduced? And then-
We were about 20%. We were about 20%. We really do not know what to expect as far as meal participation this year. We're hoping that many of our families will have seen the benefit of their students eating in our school cafeterias and that they've been pleased with the quality. And we hope they'll choose to continue to eat with us. But we will keep you up to date as we go through the year with where we are with meal participation.
I guess I was asking about the free and reduced process, though, and if we have a feel for, are we getting applications in at least at a level that we would expect?
I do not know for sure, but I know that we have been we've been aggressive with getting the word out to parents so they know what is going on with this, not only at the district level, sending out information, but also our schools, notifying our parents, making sure when they come in for meet the teacher or other events here at the end of the school that parents have access to that information. Yes,
I can't imagine that the needs have gone down.
right. Very important, very important, so,
Perfect,
yes.
thank you. I have another question.
Sure.
And there'll be a follow-up to this one. So this is on page 1, or actually, they all say page 1. But the second page, yeah, the first page, thanks, Wayne. The first page 1, yes. So this is regarding, I see a negative in the revenue in lieu of taxes.
Yes.
So if you can expound on that, and then it drove me to go do some quick research.
Okay.
And I just want to see if I came
Okay.
up with the appropriate conclusion.
So that is fee in lieu of taxes, where we have companies on our tax roll that have negotiated a reduced tax rate through the York County Economic Development as an incentive to invest here in our community, where they may get a reduction in assessment percentage from 10.5 to 6, as an example. But it is, they must meet certain criteria as far as investment levels, creation of job levels to get these tax incentives. The reason this is negative is the way that I understand it, they may have to, in some cases, go ahead and pay their full amount, and then they submit a refund request based on the documentation of providing additional jobs or additional investment, and they then become eligible for a refund. And so this tells me that a company or multiple companies received a refund in June based on that process.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So
Sure.
this drove me to do a little bit of some research, and so I'm going to share with you kind of my
Okay.
methodology and what I did. So we had an audit with a 2021 audit report. What I did, there's a document which gives, it's named tax abatement. So what I did here was I basically came across, I saw 32 companies with fee in lieu arrangements, totaling about $10.4 million. Now, my takeaway from that was, that's not our money,
Correct.
right?
Money lost.
Yes. So, those 32 companies represented roughly about 32 mills.
The equivalent of
Yes,
those
equivalent,
tax
yes.
dollars.
Yes, correct, right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So that was fascinating for me to go
Yes.
back and do a research. And am I correct with,
You are correct, and I believe you pulled that. That is in our audit in the supplemental notes to the financials. I'll just share for the board and the public, we are not required to list every company individually in our audit report. We have to list summaries or categories and totals, but we choose to list every company because we think that's important for the community to be able to see that, what the true impact. Now, we also welcome these new companies because they do bring jobs, they bring investment. We do receive a net tax increase, of course, when we have these new industries, manufacturing coming to our area. But we also lose a portion. And so that's what this represents, is the amount that we would have collected if they had not been entered into an agreement for more favorable tax situation. Yes.
thank you.
It's been 10 million every year.
Yes.
For a while.
It's actually gone
I
down.
do think, I was gonna say, I think there's been a shift a little bit. It's not been nearly as prevalent as it was 5-10 years ago, as far as the county or the state offering those incentives. Doesn't seem to be quite as often.
I think they certainly try to be very careful, and they are mindful, even though we do not have a part in the negotiation, they are mindful of the impact to us. And as they tell us many times, we are receiving the net tax benefit from those investments.
Thank you.
Any other questions about June? Okay?
Just comment on fee in lieu of while you're
Sure.
talking about it, Anthony. When it was first time I remember fee in lieu of arrangements were maybe the late 90s or going back maybe several years. we were real opposed, all the governing agencies, because it was lost revenue. But I learned through the way it was explained to me, and it does create new jobs, people, taxpayers. A certain percent of that amount of money is better than 0% of zero money.
Sure.
So the pluses do stand up against the negatives if you look at it in that light. So you think of York County has compete with Lancaster County and Chester County and Mecklenburg County for new industry, and that's where all this comes into play. So I understand it, but right at first it was a hard pill to swallow when we first started.
And it's also a long-term game, right? I mean, and I think we have
Yes.
some that are now at the point where their fee and lieu are expiring, and we'll have the benefit of those over time.
It's generally a 20 to 30 year
It's a long-
agreement.
Trucks in Fairfield County came in, and on year 19 they left. So we gotta live up to the-
I think one of the problems that I've always had with them, if you want to debate a reduction in taxes, let's debate reduced taxes. These are backroom, smoke-filled room deals
We're not at the table.
that nobody knows who even that company is. So a big company can come in and get a good tax break. A small company can't come in and do that. It's not available there.
What about your existing companies that never got one?
Like, yeah, the
And-
majority of companies, small businesses, that's where the majority of the workers are at.
You can debate both sides of this one.
Well, and it's fine to bring growth. Growth is good. We like growth. But the problem is, okay, you create jobs. Where are you going to live? You're going to live right here in Fort Mill because it's an awesome place to live, an awesome place to school your children, right? Send your children to school. And then, well, no, you're not going to pay taxes on that house, right, to actually support the operations of the school. So let's debate tax policy. But at the same time, I don't think it has any place to do with these backroom deals. And you don't have to look too far, maybe a neighboring district, to see what kind of things can happen when you give a whole bunch of incentives. That the promises sometimes don't end up, everything they were meant to be. That's my problem with them. That was a little, that was slightly reduced from how I really feel about them.
Okay, well,
Contained.
I'll move on unless there's any other
It is what it
comments
is.
on that. Impact fees, total collected to date, $51,969,590. As we might have expected, the summer has slowed down some. June and July had a combined 29 homes and 14 multifamily units added. So our total now since July of 2018 is 3,316 units in total. Comparable data, we're still about 49% less the most recent 12 months to the prior 12 months, as we have seen, just with some leveling off with the new homes. Apartments, multifamily, we're still about 70% more because of that one big month we had in February, where 2.7 million was permitted in apartments. So that is still in our calculations. Our calendar year 2001 average was 800,000. Our June actual was actually not that much less. It was $622,230, but July was only 72,000. July was very low on impact fees.
But I think if you pause for just a quick moment, and those one or two homes going up in Elizabeth, I think you'll see
Absolutely.
jump.
It's,
There's a lot more than one or two.
yeah, yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's just,
Like I say,
Pause for
we're
a
just had a little pause this summer,
Not-
and, right. We'll see what happens over the next couple of months, but,
I have not seen any indication that the planned number of homes in the various communities is any different.
No.
Right?
no, I haven't either.
It's just a timing thing.
Correct. It's absolutely a timing thing of when these get permitted. The only other thing I want to mention as far as on the monthly is our procurement audit. Green Finney has completed our procurement audit in July, and they've issued a draft report. We will send you the final once we receive it, but we had very favorable results, so we were pleased with that. As always, they had a few recommendations for process improvements that we're discussing. And we respond to those formally, and that gets sent to the State Department as well. But overall, they were very complimentary and very pleased with our processes. So we have that checked off the box now, and we're moving on to the year-end financial audit with them.
Fantastic.
Okay? Any questions on that?
The next
Yes.
agenda item as well.
Okay. I have sent you some details about an additional year-end transfer request. As you recall, you approved a preliminary amount in June, at the June meeting. We transferred about 2.8 million, I believe. This is a request for an additional million, and this is based on the year-end numbers. Currently, as I reported a minute ago, we have a positive net income of $4,397,000. To maintain our fund balance at 18 to 19%, we need to pull out of that 3.2 million. And that is based on your new amended budget. Your new amended general fund budget is $192,947,583. So based on that number and maintaining our fund balance at 18-19%, we need to account for 3.2 million to go into the fund balance. That leaves us about 1.2 million. I'm recommending that you approve an additional transfer of $1 million. And that would go towards, first, we have a couple curriculum items, and I had shared this with you at a prior meeting that we still had a few things that were in our category 4 for curriculum that had previously been funded from state aid to classroom funds that were rolled up into the new funding formula. So those funds will not be sent to us separately any longer. And we use those for a lot of things. So we're having to rework some of that. But these are some curriculum items that the curriculum department felt was the most important. This was on their budget request, and we have been discussing and figuring out how we were going to fund these. So you can see those items listed. It's our EAB partnership, which we use this group for a lot of research, best practices, that type of thing. The Winthrop program, the STARTS program at Winthrop in the summer, the Adobe software for high schools, the middle school social studies textbook, and funding for additional supplies for the elementary literacy coaches.
So those are supplies, not people.
Those are not people, it's supplies for those people. So none of these items are new. They were just previously funded from a state source that's no longer going to be available.
And they're not currently included in.
They are not currently included in the approved general fund budget.
Question for you.
Yes,
So for acute clarity,
yes.
can you clarify your comfort level with this transfer?
I am comfortable because, as I mentioned, I'm still giving myself 100, 200,000 for any last-minute adjustments in funds. And what I mean by that is we're in the process of going through all the special revenue funds, anything where we may have gotten state or federal funding that didn't completely cover the cost. We may have to make some small adjustments, but I do not feel like there's anything significant out there that will impact the general fund. In looking at we're still posting some accounts payable back to June for invoices, but we only have about 40 to 50,000 that's been encumbered that could possibly be posted back. So I looked at that. So I feel very confident in my request at the $1 million level
Thank you.
for year end.
Florida,
Yes,
I guess obvious, but I'm just asking questions.
sure.
So we see this as more important than, say, putting it into the contingency fund.
Yes.
Looking towards the next schools that we've got to.
Well, curriculum says yes, because I got the directive, I have to figure out how to pay for these things.
For this top set.
For this top set, yes, for the curriculum items. But if you'd like, I'll keep going through the rest of them, and then we can come back to that. I'm gonna skip down to the last one. Land acquisition, $750,000. We are in negotiation on a site currently, very close to that site. And it would require, based on the current market values of land right now in Fort Mill, it would require additional funds to obtain the amount of acreage that we
So
need.
this is about 5 acres, right?
Correct. Yes.
In and of itself.
Yes. And that's why we have this on the list. As you recall, you added a little, we have some left from the 2018 referendum that was for land. You added a little bit in the 8% annual bond issue. But as negotiations have continued and focusing in on that acreage, this amount would need to be added to purchase that site. And as you know, it is very hard to find enough acreage right now in Fort Mill. So we really feel like, and this is a great site from what I understand. That's why that's on there. And then the last piece is related to athletic funding. You heard a presentation from the high school athletic directors a month or two back in detail. Also, in the budget process, the administration had on our Category 4 to ask you to consider funding the district athletic insurance. We have currently been paying that out of a portion of allocation for the athletic program at the high school. So we give them $22,000, but we take it away because we use it to cover the insurance. So they really don't have access to that for stipends. That's been on the high school budget request list for, I know, at least the last couple years. And then the $50,000 would be added to that to help go towards some of the recommended adjustments in coaching stipends that the 3 high schools collectively have recommended. I provided you the detail of that. After their presentation, we went back to them and asked them to prioritize it, just like we do our budget, into their priority 1, 2, and 3. Their priority 1 items are primarily in regards to looking at surrounding districts and across the state, high schools our size, and what they're paying their coaches. And these are their recommended adjustments in the head coaching stipends for the most part.
What are you reading from?
This sheet right here. Oh, sorry.
Okay, okay.
The priority 2 items are things, for the most part, except for 1, are things that are new. I think we had shared with you that we had some concerns about so many of our sports at the JV level only had a head coach and did not have an assistant coach. So when they travel, if there's an injury, which that has happened multiple times, the coach is in a predicament to go to the hospital or to a medical facility with the athlete, and then who stays with the team. So we feel like this was definitely a safety concern. And the 3 high school ADs do as well, because you can see they have proposed to add the assistant coaches for these JV sports. And that's primarily their priority 2. So if you fund the transfer, we can cover priority 1 and 2. I think it's about $1,200 short. And I'll work with them and we'll figure that out, who they're going to cut. But we're close on being able to do everything on this priority 1 and priority 2 list.
Help me with that, because we've got 3 schools.
Correct.
So when I look at any of the individuals, a head coach from 25 to 300, that's a $500 increase, but that's times 3.
Correct. So this priority 1 adds up to 21,450
But if I multiply that times 3.
times 3, and then priority 2 is 17,300 times 3. And then compare that to 65,000 plus 50,000,
Oh, you're from the 60 as
115.
well, or the 65 as well.
Correct,
Okay.
correct,
That's what I was missing.
correct. Because if we're able to fund the district athletic insurance separate, then they get use of their full $22,000.
So would you clarify this?
Sure.
I don't see anything on the priority, either the priority list that you gave us that indicates whether this is high school, middle school,
This
or
is
both.
high school.
So everything on this
Everything
is
on
all
here is high
related.
school, correct,
Which is what that 50,000 line item says also.
correct.
Right, but she said that it was coming from the 65,000, right? Because if we're paying that 65,000.
Correct. Yes.
That 65 is
Okay.
insurance for both middle and high.
Middle also, there's a little difference in that middle, to fund their program, they also get the benefit of our athletic website. For donations off our athletic website, we put that towards middle school. So there's a few differences, and our goal is certainly just to fund both programs at the level that we need to.
I've got some questions, and I know the athletic directors aren't here, and I don't want to dive in
Yeah,
too deep, but I see all three
Okay.
high school principals, thank you for being here, are here tonight. So a couple questions, and I asked this last time, but first, there are a couple sports that are missing off this list. Like, I don't see track or wrestling. Are those schools not being proposed an increase in their stipend?
I see a wrestling assistant coach.
No, but on the head coaches, looks like every other head coach is going up.
I don't see cheerleading either.
Right. So
And we can ask them any specific questions.
There's dance, but not track or cross-country.
But it's my this is truly their recommendations, and it is based on their review of other surrounding districts by sport.
okay. I just don't understand why
Yeah.
there would be sports missing. So that would
Okay.
be my first concern.
Sure.
The other question that I have is the athletic director teaching classes during the school day?
No.
Okay. And I understand, and this is maybe my question about the adding the additional assistant athletic director. And I know part of the compelling argument that is deservedly there is that they spend so much time outside of school at athletic events. So my question is, why aren't we restructuring their day to really address those needs instead of restructuring their stipend?
Well, and they're already paid at,
That's what I'm saying
A
is,
higher rate.
is there
Right.
flexibility within their day so that their day looks a little bit more non-traditional than a certified staff member?
You're talking about from an hours.
From
Right.
I mean,
Instead of coming
the
in early
compelling
in the
argument
morning
for
and-
raising the
yeah.
stipend so much, I mean, it's a 50% increase on their stipend, is that they're spending so much extra time outside of their school day. So my question is, why are they defined to a school day?
So if I can speak to this.
Yes.
A large part of what they're spending their school day doing is the paperwork associated with eligibility. One of the number one things, that they make a mistake, an entire season can be lost for the students on that team. And that is going through grade point averages and everything else. I know that's a portion of the year, but they are working during that school day, performing duties, not just supervision. So I would venture to say that they are very active, and in many cases, I'll defer to the three high school principals as well to back me up on this. They are used as a de facto administrator when they don't have something. They're jumping in, supervising kids at lunch, before school, after school. And I know that's not their job in terms of the defined, but they are working in terms of the eligibility is the biggest piece, scheduling. They're having to work with the hours that the others are doing. So if we limited them to like after school, they're going to be calling people who are off the clock. If we worked it towards the end of the day, it would not align with
Because we always get this feedback about people not able to hear on the phone, I'm going to very quickly summarize what Mr. Scroggs said is two big things that they're doing during the day. One is a lot of the eligibility and other paperwork for scheduling and grade points and so on and so forth. And then the second would be, I'll call it other duties as assigned, because they are an administrator in the building and do all of the other components that administrators are required to do in the building.
I think another thing that they said in their presentation was the multiple sports that are, especially during the fall and the spring. You know, the AD can't be at the softball game, the soccer game, and the baseball game that are all going on at the same time.
Sure.
So assistant AD would help in that role.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask. So what is the vision of the assistant AD? Because I'm thinking that that they would also be working games, you know, nighttime, so that would be evening. But could they also help with some of the eligibility paperwork? Like, or is it just that our district has grown so much? You know, because
If I remember correctly, I think it was, they looked at it by season. So I think there's $6,000 in there.
And that's what
Yes.
one of them told me actually this week, is that they would probably have 3 different people that they would pay $2,000 at various sports seasons to help.
Coach can be assistant AD, but not in the fall because he's coaching football. He might do it
Right.
in the winter
okay.
where he can help out and ask more.
So we would not use this assistant person as an eligibility checkpoint.
Could, I mean, you could definitely,
If it's that critical and it's that important, I don't think that it should be,
be ultimately responsible.
right.
I think the assistant can help with it, absolutely.
I think it's more to cover the event.
Sure.
Yeah, the
The games,
conversation we're having is about
yes.
an additional assistant AD, and I wasn't at the meeting, but I do remember them talking about splitting it up by the three
Right.
Yep.
seasons, because of using some of the same individuals in their off-season, if you
Right.
will.
So I had, after that
I don't
initial
think Scott
meeting.
was done.
I'm sorry.
I don't think
Go-
Scott was
go ahead,
done.
Scott, I'm
Trust
sorry.
me, I'll get all my questions out. Go ahead, Mr.
And the
Brady.
reason, I'll just
ahead,
go
Scott.
back to,
No.
Mr. Federoli, I'll just go back to your, because I did bring a copy of the current coaching levels. Track, I am guessing, and I'm just guessing, that track is not on here because they are already at a level higher than the majority of these head coaches.
And what about cheer?
Um,
I remember that we talked about that,
Cheer
but I
is
couldn't remember the
also at a
specific.
level higher than these head coaches.
Lower
Correct.
coaches, okay.
I'm speculating, but I'm guessing that was their thinking.
And again, I asked this that night. It's just an understanding of why dance, who's currently the lowest stipend amount, is now jumping ahead of other sports head coaches' stipends.
Student count
Right.
was one of the answers.
And I understand that, but it's you know, it would make, I'm supportive of
Yeah.
stipends. I mean, in increasing stipends. But to me, I would almost rather see something that's like an equivalent of a overall percentage increase for all of the coaches.
Although I think what Leanne said they did was, they did this based on actual research of competitive pay to the various sports, because like it or not, sports don't pay the same in the real world either.
I understand that. That's why I'm saying, you know, to have an equivalent sort of across the board. I don't know, for one reason or another, I just don't understand how some of these sports are paying at one stipend level and other. And again, maybe that's not for me to understand, but I'm going to ask the question anyways.
Sure.
And I don't know if that causes internal animosity amongst the coaches. That one coach is making, you know, that's at $1,600 and only going up to $2,500, where somebody's at $1,500 and going up to $3,000.
I think it's
Right,
a
you know what I mean? Like-
combination of, as you mentioned, it's a combination of how many members are on the team, and also what is the length of their season. Number of competitions. Dance, for example, I believe performs not only football season, but also basketball season some. Same with cheer, so it's extended.
I think it was matched with cheer. I think cheer was already at that level.
Right.
If I could be wrong, don't quote me on this, and I think dance was increased to match,
Right.
or get close to where.
Close. It's still, yeah. Because of the 2 seasons.
Dr. Federoli, still asking questions?
No, and it wasn't really a question.
Yeah.
It's just, it was more of just a general statement that
Yes.
I just, I would love to see a bigger increase for all of the coaches. But maybe at a
Well, they
more
would too.
equivalent.
They would too.
At more
But-
of an equivalent across the board where, somebody's not getting a 50% increase and somebody else is getting a 10% increase, or 20% increase.
Well, and then there's some
So-
assistants that are getting paid better than other assistants, too.
In the corporate world, this is just like a market adjustment.
Right.
It's a market-based adjustment. We
Dr.
just
Federer, you
went
done?
through that, and some didn't get anything, some got.
I'll
big
think
ones.
on it, but
Okay.
if I have
Okay,
any,
perfect.
you can go ahead and go. I'll think on it.
Perfect,
If I
thank
have
you.
anything else.
Thank you. So I appreciate the methodology, or at least the question that where Dr. Federer is coming from. I think he's trying to wrap his arms around the methodology, right? There's a question I asked after the initial meeting, and that was, I had noticed an absence of athletic trainers from the schools, and I had asked someone to find that out, and I'm curious, if we are looking at raising those stipends for those, why didn't we include the athletic trainer? So I just wanted to have an understanding of that.
So we do have a trainer stipend currently,
Yes,
yes.
right, but we're increasing almost any other thing that's going on here. So I think
Yes.
I wanted to make sure from an inclusive standpoint that it's coming across that we're looking at
Right.
all the sports pieces, if you will.
I believe, I'm pretty confident in saying they've looked at the complete list.
Okay,
And based on what I told them is the limited funds
yep,
that I thought we could possibly put in or bring to you for consideration, that they had to prioritize.
okay.
They would certainly like to do more. Yes. And hopefully this is just step one in funding our athletic programs at a higher level to be more competitive, because we are still significantly behind our surrounding districts in what the support at the general fund for athletics.
The
There's
numbers
a
and
lot
the
of,
amounts.
Right,
go ahead.
yeah.
I was saying we're behind both in numbers of them and the amounts we pay them.
So I appreciate all the legwork that's been done, the heavy lifting on this. I really appreciate that. So I attend many of the sporting events, and I have an appreciation for what all of the coaches and the athletes do. So just wanted to mention that.
So they were very, they're very excited just to know that you were discussing this tonight and possibly putting in just a little bit of extra dollars.
You don't have it listed as an action item.
No, because generally you like to discuss it, and then I will bring it as an action item on the next meeting. I believe it's August 24th,
Or
30,
23rd, 24th.
23rd. Okay, that meeting.
Ms. Lordo, with respect to this, do you anticipate having money annually to now cover this? Since
Well,
this
you
year
would
was-
see this on the new ad items next year,
Okay.
next
Right.
spring.
Become a part of the.
It will become a part
And you're
of the,
confident that we'll have this,
well, I would say this would have to be in our category 1
right?
to fund, yes,
Just like the ESSER
correct,
2 that's left over and the ESSER 3.
correct,
It will become a
yes.
priority one that has to get funded.
Can you go back for just 1 second to trainers?
Sure.
I want to make sure
Yes.
that Anthony's question is answered fully, or that we're all clear on it. We do have trainers, and I don't believe that there is a request at this point for additional either numbers or money for them. And we have a partnership because they're actually medical staff, right, as opposed to teaching staff. And so we have a partnership with Atrium.
Correct.
For the medical.
For the majority of our trainers. We have one trainer supplement that is a district-paid trainer.
I understand all of that.
And then it's supplemented, the great point, it's supplemented with the partnership with Atrium for all 3 of our high schools.
Do we really only have one? I would have thought the sports med teacher at all the schools would have been.
Unless they split it. They may split it. Yeah.
Ms. Lordo, couple
Yes.
questions. The district-funded athletic insurance says high school and middle school. So does
Yes.
the middle school portion of those funds go to the high school to get funded? How does that?
The middle school portion gets funded out of their separate fund, which is a combination of the $100 fee, the website donation revenue that I mentioned that comes in, and their gate receipts.
So the 65 funds the insurance at both the high school and the middle school?
Correct.
Are we shorting them is what he wants to know.
We're not going to short them.
Well, and the number of athletes at the middle
Yes.
school is
But I think
considerably
your concern is if we
less.
Yes.
shift this money over.
Right.
Are they still gonna be covered?
Right.
Well, yes, but we had also talked about where you take the 65, divide it by 3, you add that to the 50, you take the 65. So it seems
We
like
will
there.
be able to make up their portion out of their own fund.
We're
So they're not
we're
gaining, but they're
shifting
not
middle
losing.
school money to high school.
No, okay, if we add the 65,000, that's gonna cover the insurance bill. So, it's going to free up the full high school amount, and then I can make up the middle school difference out of their fund based on what we anticipate with these other 3 revenue sources, because they've have their own, but we've created their own budget for the new school year. From their gate receipts, their fee, and their donations. They get the benefit of the donations. We have been short on donations because of COVID, but we now have a new arrangement on donations
But
that'll make up the difference.
maybe I'm making it up, but I thought that the insurance was across the board for all athletes regardless of middle school or high school. So it's not 20,000 of the insurance bill is middle school sports and 45,000 is high school. I think it's a
shifting that.
one-shot bill.
It is one invoice, it is one bill. We allocate it out and split it between middle and high school. But what I'm saying is the middle school athletic program gets a benefit that the high school program does not. So by doing this, we're gonna make up some of that difference, because the middle schools receive the donation revenue, the high schools do not. So I'm gonna give them the full benefit of the 65,000, and the middle schools will get the benefit of an increase in donations.
But what I think Brian is looking for assurance is that the middle schools
Will not be
receive
shorted.
any less money than they are today.
Correct.
To make up their own portion of the payment of.
Correct.
Of the insurance.
But through donations.
I
Correct.
don't care how they, I don't, it's not
not
that
We're,
big, but
we're shifting,
point is-
we're shifting stuff that we're paying for.
We're shifting,
And
yes.
we're saying there's this outside source that maybe there, may not be there.
It's guaranteed.
There's a donation that's guaranteed.
It is.
Can you elaborate on
Sure.
that?
So we have a partnership with National Amateur Sports. They run the athletic website that all of our high schools and middle schools participate in. The Sports Engine thing, where all of the athletes have to use it to fill out their registration paperwork. And also it links to the pay fees. We just entered into a new agreement with them where they're guaranteeing us a minimum of $3,000 per each high school, which is $9,000, and that we use to fund middle school. So this is going to give the high schools this benefit, and middle schools are going to get that benefit. That's why I say it is guaranteed.
And it's guaranteed because of the contract.
Correct.
So it's not
And
a
it's
donation.
and it's a 5-year contract.
It's part of a contract.
Yes.
Okay.
So in 5 years, you may see that back on the, can we add this item on the budget? But
Well, that brings
think
to
we're
my
good.
one of my primary, I've got some others, but
Okay.
that does, it's a nice segue. Thank you very much. We are taking one-time money
yes,
and we are committing to reoccurring dollars.
we are. We are, but it's at a level that I'm comfortable with because I feel like going into the budget next year, as I said, you would see this as a new request, but in total, this would only be $250,000 between the curriculum items and the athletic items. It'd be 250,000.
My continuing concern is, one, I believe this is outside of our normal budget process. So we're
Correct.
talking about spending recurring dollars a year before we really know what the revenue stream is going to look like. And a year before we should be talking about the recurring dollars at our regular budget process, in my view. And so that's a primary concern, as well as the other concerns I've already addressed previously, which is there are positions, a number of positions, millions of dollars of positions, that need to be added into the general fund while still opening up potentially new schools, or that there is at least on the near horizon. So I have a very strong concern about that. No more comments, unless the board wants to comment, but I have a big concern about that. I have some other concerns about the specifics of this proposal, though. Moving on. Are there any other coaches or programs that are not getting a proposed increase on this list? I know we've talked about 3. Are there any others?
There may be. I mean, we can certainly meet with the 3 ADs again in the next 2 weeks before the next meeting and share your concerns and get their input from them.
What I think their next steps need to be is, as we mentioned, this is not an action item today because
Correct.
it's got to be a part of a bigger transfer that occurs, right? We're having the most conversation on
Correct.
the smallest portion of the dollars. but,
Right.
The bigger change has to occur. So between now and then, I think we heard making sure that all sports were considered and were intentionally included or not for valid reasons. I think we heard just confirming the role and the schedule of ADs and assistant ADs and making sure that that is a design that,
You don't have to bring anything
Yeah.
back. That was great
Okay.
explanation. That's just what I wanted to
Okay.
hear, so.
Just to put in perspective, at 250,000, which is a large number for me and you, but that is 0.1% of our current budget.
I completely agree with that and understand the logic of it. The problem is we have 0.1% our budget up to a higher number, to a number that has raised taxes. And we can do it, it's, death by 1,000 pinpricks, is that one of the sayings?
Something like that.
But that's my concern. I agree, overall, 250,000 in this budget, but we're doing it over and over again. We've done it multiple times in this budget process, and so that's a continuing concern.
In the last 5 years, has our tax collection where vehicles or otherwise has been concerned that goes into operations, has that declined in the last 5 years
No, it's increased.
by
Fortunately.
more than 0.1%?
I mean, we've been fortunate that generally we budget based on the prior year collections plus a 2 to 3% growth rate in taxes, and we have seen taxes come in higher
Every year for.
every year. That could certainly change,
Sure.
but that is typically how I develop the number to present to you for budgeted tax revenue. And it has afforded us the ability to do some of these things at year end, certainly.
well, and I think that's really the issue is the timing of when we have to set a budget
Right.
and our year end, it just doesn't allow us that, right?
Right.
It would be great if we didn't set a
Yes.
budget until October, but that's
Right.
not the way,
Right.
That's been my
calendar
issue,
works.
yes,
Right.
correct.
and there's nothing we can do.
Well, and you saw a great example on the June financials when we had a credit in our taxes of over 200,000 at the county level.
Right.
And there was another increase in this month for another taxpayer had a settlement that I asked about. So when I said it was sort of coincidence that we came in 1.3 within the range of 1.2 to 1.5, there were up and downs of a couple $100,000, and that happens every June. So it is very difficult to estimate that number very close. But I think that our methodology works for us, and with our growth, we've been fortunate that we have seen it come in over budget.
Well, and quite frankly, your track record speaks for itself when it comes to setting a budget and hedging on what those numbers are. We have yet to spend more than we have taken in since I've been
I
on
hope
this
I
board.
never let that happen.
Right.
But the reason that I put athletics on this year-end list, as I considered a lot of the budget discussion that we went through for several months, as well as talking to our principals, our department heads, I felt like there is a real need for us to address athletics because we have, over the years, been so focused on our classroom, and rightfully so, that we've let some of the dollars that we provide for athletics slip under what some of our surrounding districts. And from what I hear from the athletic directors, it's becoming very difficult to recruit these coaches and retain these coaches coming back.
Whole student education.
I would agree with you that something needs to be done. We saw that, I think, in the presentation. I do want to ask two more comments. One, I would share Dr. Frateroli's concerns that on spreading the love throughout the coaching staff, because this proposal, I believe, is recommended in the priorities by the athletic directors. And they're the ones again, deservedly or not, I'm supportive, but they're the ones getting a 50% increase when you've got other coaches out, hey, cheer coach, what'd you get? You know, that could spread, that could cause some issues, as some people, that could cause some issues within your staff and within your coaches. I'd be concerned about that.
And we'll meet with them and share that with them.
The other one was, are there any programs that are currently at the high school that are being proposed to be moved to the middle school that are not funded in this proposal?
Programs.
There were, in the last presentation that we received from the athletic directors, there were some programs that were going to be shifted from the high school to the middle school but not funded.
He was talking
They want to
wrestling.
start wrestling.
That was one of them.
They want to start middle school wrestling.
What's that?
Middle school wrestling.
It is being shifted in this one?
I don't believe it is.
Okay.
It sounds like it was talked about, but it is not moving forward at this point in time. It doesn't.
Yeah, there would have been an
Correct.
issue of, if you're going to shift that to the middle school, then there would be the issue of paying for coaches there. So you're
coaching
really
cycles
just,
that need to be added to the middle school.
right. So I'm just making
Right.
sure there's
Yep.
nothing else that would need to be added in. I think thank you.
I'm going to bring the 3 ADs next time, too. Tell them they don't get off anymore.
That's right.
All right. Anything else from you?
I know. I'm trying to think. Anything else from me?
Can I run
No.
yet?
Okay.
No, you're still up.
I think
I'm
she's
still up.
Go
Okay.
ahead. GCC.
So the next,
Oh, she is up next.
yeah, I thought she was kidding.
Ray's turn.
Yes.
No, not yet.
Oh, no, not yet. So for the benefit of our staff and the public, you as a board asked us to bring to you a possible proposal on amending the next two policies. So we were very pleased to look into that for you. And tonight we are presenting for first reading a change in policy GCC, which is professional staff leaves and absences, and policy GDC, which is support staff leaves and absences. The two specific areas, let me make sure I don't miss anything on my notes on this. The two specific areas on this, the proposed changes, and it's very similar in both of these policies, is related to personal leave days. Currently, each of our staff members, other than those that are on 240-day or full-year contracts, because if you're on a full-year contract, you receive annual leave, vacation leave, so this does not apply. But all other district employees are allowed to use 3 personal leave days currently for non-sick, just any type of personal reasons. It does come off of their sick leave balance. We are proposing to increase that to 5 days. And I'm going to go through what we're proposing, and then I'll kind of tell you what some of our surrounding districts are doing. But we are proposing to change the wording in these policies. If you look at, I'm just going to reference it on the professional staff leave wording. Under personal leave, there is a paragraph about the district's expectation that has been added for personal leave to ensure that quality, uninterrupted academic instruction is provided to students during periods of personal leave. It says the request should be submitted 3 days in advance or as soon as possible if it's an emergency. This is not cumulative, meaning if a employee uses only 2 of the 5, they don't get 3 more next year plus 5 next year. So it is non-cumulative. It does convert to sick leave, and it can be denied if for some reason the supervisor, if there's a whole lot of teachers who are requesting the same day off, the principal, right, may deny that personal leave, and the superintendent or his or her designee will have the final approval for any appeals to the supervisor's decision. So each employee, and then employees on a 240-day contract receive annual leave and are not eligible. The second piece of this is a payout of unused sick leave. So it sort of goes on the other end. We're increasing the personal leave days. We are also looking at the other side of that for those employees who have accumulated more than 90 days of sick leave during their tenure with the district. That is under the section, and it is in red, it is under transfer of sick leave. There's in-state transfer, and then it has reimbursement of unused leave. At the end of each fiscal year, the district may pay employees who have accumulated over 90 days of sick leave at a rate of $60 per day for unused sick leave over 90, provided funds are available. Provided funds are available.
And that is different than today, because today they can accumulate up to 120 days?
Correct.
Right?
So currently, our current policy allows employees to accumulate up to 120. However, the retirement system only allows a retiree to transfer or count 90 days towards their final retirement calculation. And also, the majority of districts in South Carolina, if we have an employee who, for whatever reason, goes to another district, most districts only accept 90 days. I won't say that's 100%, but for the most part, most districts would only accept up to 90 days. So our employees basically lose the benefit of those additional 30 days.
Might be incentive.
So is this, they may cash out over 90, or everything over 90?
Would cash out.
Be cashed out?
Would cash out. That would be very difficult to have an option to opt in or out of that. Before I talk about our numbers, I'll just share that I thought you may be interested in the other York County districts. So the other York County districts currently, Clover does allow 5 personal leave days. Rock Hill's considering it, and York is still at 3. So if we adopt a change in the policy, 3 of the York County districts more than likely will be at 5. Sick leave payout, all 3 of them already pay out sick leave over 90. All 3 of them already pay it out. We're the only one that does not. It varies as far as the rate. Rock Hill is the lowest rate. York pays at 1/4 of someone's daily rate, so I'm not really sure how to estimate an average on that. Rock Hill pays 30 a day, and Clover pays 100 for certified and 50 for other staff. So I honestly just landed on $60 a day in the middle because I wanted to see what the financial impact of that was going to be. And the timing of the payout is interesting. Rock Hill and York pay in the fall, meaning they look at their numbers at year end, at June 30th. They use it as a retention bonus and they pay out in the fall for those employees who came back. Clover pays it in June. For information. So to think about that. In looking at, we pulled our numbers at June 30th. We have 125 employees that are on 178 to a 200-day contract who have balances over 90. We have 82 employees that are on a 210 to 240-day contract that are over 90. So we have 207 employees that are over 90. The one-time cost to bring it down to 90, which means the most someone will get paid out is 30 days. So the one-time cost for us to do one initial payout would be $270,000. I'm around these numbers. $270,000. There's $20,000 in fringe, so it would be $290,000 to do the one-time payout. Interestingly enough, we researched this. We would not have, these checks would not be subject to retirement, and we would not have to pay in the 24% retirement match.
And it should not be subjected to, from a fringe standpoint, it should only be subjected to tax. It shouldn't
FICA.
be, yeah,
Well, yeah, I mean, from an employer standpoint, only FICA.
right.
The employee would have to, it would go through their normal withholdings, but they would not having to pay retirement is huge.
Yes.
So that's the one time for the.
That's the one time.
People that are already at that level. But
So every year we looked at 21-22 year end. Generally, people used 5 to 5.5 sick leave days. So I ran that out, and I'm estimating we'd probably be in the range of $85,000 a year.
That's roughly 5 per staff member.
Correct. Well, 5 days would be used. So if you are a full-time, year-round employee, you receive 15 sick leave days. If you use 5 and you were already at 90, you would get paid for 10 days. Do you see what I mean? Yeah.
I do.
Okay. Just to give you an idea of where our numbers are. So we have included that wording under the reimbursement of unused leave on both policies. And we've included the wording for personal leave on both policies. Questions?
And this would not, we have an employee sick bank.
Yes.
So this is really not going to affect that. An employee could choose to still donate to that sick bank. We're not
Correct.
going to deplete
Correct.
that or anything.
Ms. McGarity? Yes.
Thank you.
And do we have a determination as to when we would want to pay that out?
Well, we're open to your thoughts.
I like the fall.
Okay?
Fall allows us to
Yes.
use
No.
attention.
Yes?
Right. Fall doesn't have to be August. I mean,
Right.
it can be, but it doesn't have to be. It could be October. It could be
Right.
November.
Well, Rock Hill is in October. York is in December. So we could be in between or September.
I like fall. Sometime in the fall.
Pumpkin spice time.
What's that?
Pumpkin spice
Okay, you know,
time.
you can go get yourself a nice Starbucks coffee with that.
If the average person, we're talking about 10 days at $60 a day, I mean, that is, in the fall, that would be a very nice extra little gift.
So I think that's the offset. I'm sorry, Mr. I think that's the offset. If you increase the personal leave days, there is some incentive if people truly don't need 5 personal leave days, then they're accumulating to get to 90. So then every year they would receive pay for a couple days.
Incentives both ways. You know, to stay in the classroom, or
Right.
I really need it.
Yeah.
Either way is a win. The 240 days, so you have annual leave. There's no distinction
Correct.
between sick and personal. Is that how that is?
Correct, there is not.
Thank you.
You have annual leave and just sick leave, but no personal leave.
I am thrilled that we're able to, or we're considering the opportunity of giving teachers this flexibility and staff this flexibility, and it doesn't cost us any money. I mean, that's a win for everybody.
Look, cost us a little.
Will it cost us?
No, I'm like,
wait a minute, what?
No, I'm sorry. I'm not speaking about the paying over 90 days. I'm not talking
Oh,
about that.
okay.
I'm talking about the 5 days.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Which doesn't cost us any money.
Correct.
Do you have any recommended changes in the wording as it's been presented in these policies?
The only thing I would say, sorry, the only thing I would say is a time period of when it would pay out.
Do you think that needs to be in the policy? Then that gives us the flexibility of,
That might be an SCSBA question.
yeah, okay.
Policy.
I did not see a time period. I looked at all of these districts, their policies,
That's because they don't update their policy.
and I did not see the payout period in their policies.
I think you need a statement at least to say the following fiscal year.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise, if
What's the
someone were to
expectation?
leave, then I think we could get sideways about why it says right here, I'm gonna get paid for it. So I think
Sure.
it needs to at least define that it's
The
in the
following
following
fiscal
fiscal
year.
year.
Okay.
Is there something in it that says if you don't, if you don't return that following year that you're not eligible for it?
The following
Back to
fiscal
the
year,
incentive thing.
if
You have to,
you're still, if you're still employed. something
I
like
don't know if that's in there or not, but.
that. Yeah, good point.
Okay, we will add that for the next reading.
The only other question I have is about the rate being the same between the two. I don't know.
It's still
Says-
less than sub pay for both.
We didn't particularly like the idea of having a different certified versus other staff rate.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that was intentional.
But it was intentional,
There's
but,
a wide scale of salaries
right.
for staff at this district, right? So,
But we could certainly go up or down on the 60 was just my starting point of looking at our surrounding districts and trying to be in the middle.
Well, and
With them.
it truly is less than we would pay for a sub for a sick day. So we're, in essence, we're double paying when you think in terms of you're paying a staff member for using that sick pay or that personal time or whatever, but you're also paying a sub. The number is less at 60 than it is for the sub, so it doesn't give me heartburn.
Okay. And you can think about this over the next 2 weeks, and if you have thoughts about that, please share them with me. And we can discuss it at the next meeting. Okay? Thank you.
now we'll let you leave.
Now you're off the
I'm
hot
off the hook. Yay.
And Gray's in the hot seat.
All right. Good morning. I mean, yeah, whatever it is. It's morning somewhere, right? All right. So I am here to do the first reading of Board Policy Ebcb, and this is Safety Plans and Drills. The district is required by Law 59-17-160 to implement a fire safety policy that incorporates measures such as emergency drills and routine fire safety inspections. The type and frequency of the drills is not changing from what we already do in our procedures that we already have, but the drill practices are consistent with what we're currently doing. So the fire safety inspections are separate from inspections by the fire marshal and will be conducted by school personnel. The principal will have ultimate responsibility for these inspections. Sorry to throw this on you guys, but will be assisted by maintenance and student services to complete these. So we'll kind of guide them through that. These inspections focus on key systems such as fire alarms, fire suppression, emergency lighting and signage, and high-risk areas and equipment. Personnel will use a standard inspection checklist as provided by the Office of the State Fire Marshal and the State Department of Education. It's online. We just get online and we check boxes, basically, that we've done this. Inspection results will be entered monthly into the State Department of Education Safety Portal and may be reviewed by the Fire Marshal or other fire officials upon request. And again, Student Services and Maintenance will coordinate implementation with principals and provide them assistance throughout the process.
So it's not a new policy, because we have a safety and fire policy now, and it's not new drills. It's just the addition of the internal inspections.
Correct.
And
It is a new, I don't think we have an EBCB policy. Or is it? Okay.
We did. Be wrong.
in the meantime, Mr. Young,
Yes.
I think I've heard comments made over time, but I'm bringing it up here. It seems the quantity, the frequency of the fire drills seems kind of excessive, or at least in comparison to the other, severe weather and the shooter group drills. Where'd that number come from? I was thinking it was a state-driven.
It is state law.
So state law actually states that we have to have 2 fire drills per year, okay? But the state fire code, which is code section 5963-910, requires at least 2 fire drills. That's the one that requires 2 fire drills per year. But the state fire marshal, the state code, fire code says we have to have monthly fire drills
And we do have policy.
per the fire code.
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
EBCB, and it's about that long, and it says we'll do monthly
Right.
fire drills and,
So this adds the safety inspection.
and the current one doesn't have the other things about hallways and all that kind of
Right.
stuff either. So it's
Yep.
a much better and more robust policy.
In total, it's 14 drills, 14 opportunities to be out of the classroom for good purpose.
Yeah.
Still.
Correct. So within each school year, schools must conduct at least 2 fire drills according to the law. We do them monthly according to the fire code, but 2 active intruder drills and 2 severe weather earthquake drills. And usually the earthquake drill is done, I think it's in March. They have like a national earthquake drill day, I guess. And they set the alarm off at the same time for all the schools in the state.
Columbia better be practicing a lot more often.
Yeah, right?
Yes, yeah,
Seriously.
true.
No question.
Any other questions? All right. That's just the first reading.
Okay, so we'll be back with a formal second reading next time, right?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our staff reports. Now we've got a couple action items. The first one is, I guess, the review of the annual procurement minority report. Is that the official action that we have to take? Let's review the plan.
Good evening.
Hello.
In your packets, you have a copy of the district minority business plan. And as part of the new procurement code that we adopted as of July 1st, the plan must be presented and approved by the board on an annual basis. And per the code, it's very specific that it has to be done the first meeting in August. So this is why I'm here. So basically, I sent you a copy, wanted to see if you had any questions about it.
I've got a question. The progress payments,
Yes.
are they different for businesses that fall into this category versus all the others? Or is it just spelled out in here?
It's just spelled out in here.
Okay.
That it's an incentive that we can offer to attract the minority vendors to come to bid on our, the way the process works is we advertise this and encourage the vendors to bid on our proposals or our formal request for bids. And that's just one of the incentives that we offer to the smaller or the minority businesses.
And we have certain contracts that we bid out.
Yes.
Certain ones where we have to take the lowest, where we're
Yes.
required.
So there is no preference right now in the code for minority vendors.
Okay.
So we do take the lowest. If it's a request for proposal, that's a different type where we don't necessarily have to take the lowest price. We look at other factors. If a purchase is an exemption as well, excuse me, that's an approved exemption, we don't have to take the lowest price. But we do what's in the best interest of the district in that case.
So it's just emergencies and
Correct.
things along those.
Sole source.
Sole source.
Or a type of expenditure that I mentioned, but the last time I was up here when we approved the code and approved the exemptions, so copyrighted technology, copyrighted books, those types of purchases. And also, I went back and looked at previous years, and it's very cyclical depending on the projects that we have. So we had a lot of repeat vendors in the past that we haven't used this year, or the previous year, because we had somebody come in with a better price. So we're still using the differential of the pricing with it.
So having this plan, again, is not new.
No,
Because the law has been in place that we have to have this plan.
correct.
It's just the annual requirement that we review and update the plan.
Correct. And it has to be presented and approved at a public board session. The other change to it is that you also have in your packet the annual report on the expenditures. Per the new code, it has to be done twice a year. So in 6 months, you'll have another report.
I apologize, but I don't have that
I
either.
don't have that either.
Okay,
Didn't see that either.
Just the business plan.
okay. Okay,
If everybody's online, if you wouldn't mind just sending it so we have it in front of us, because I don't want to, you're not online. You can look over my shoulder if you're not online.
I'm online.
Okay.
It's good. It's working.
Because since we're supposed to also
Absolutely.
review that twice a year and approve it, if we can get a quick copy.
so
of
that
it.
does not have to be approved. It's just for your review.
Okay, I
has
would
to
like-
And it'll come now every 6 months. In the prior code, it had to be submitted at the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
The new code, it has to be sent every 6 months. You do not need to approve it. It was just, the requirement is to submit it, to make you aware of
But
it.
it would make sense to do it in conjunction with the annual plan and then
Yes.
6 months later
Correct.
as a checkpoint mid-year. Okay.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the administration to adopt the Minority Business Enterprise Plan presented for August of 2022.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the Minority Business Enterprise Plan as presented. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, your motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Didn't we have, yeah, and we have one additional action item regarding instructional materials.
Mr. Scroggs promises this is the last time this year.
No promises. I can't make any promises on that. So I'll try and be brief. We had the opportunity to review 6 textbooks. I want to focus this on, these are state adopted textbooks. The state's already gone through a vetting process. This is no different than what you've heard a good bit, so I'll try and spare you some of the details. The general overview is that the State Department of Ed puts out a priority list saying these are the things we would like to fund, and then they look at how much money they have and say these are the texts that we're going to fund. So we're really looking at 6 total classes, environmental science, both CP and AP, marine science, sociology, psychology, and a version of PE. So the state takes input from the public. So I want to make sure that that's out front. The state goes ahead and solicits that input. Taxpayers have the ability to share their input with the state directly, not necessarily the school boards. So once they receive the feedback, then they put out a list of approved publishers. So ultimately, the state presents the adoptable books for districts to choose from. So we are required to choose a text from that list. We cannot go rogue, or else they will not fund our purchase. So what do we look for in a text? We are looking at the alignment to state standards, how it connects to the profile of a South Carolina high school graduate. In that, you may say, what does that look like? Well, it's world-class skills and knowledge, and it's those soft skills and accessing, just being able to ask critical thinking skills can be provoked by the text itself. We also look at readability for the target audience. Is this appropriate for a college class, or is this appropriate for a general college preparatory course? Also, our instructors look at digital resources. Do we get an electronic copy with this? And what support materials do the teachers receive in addition to what they put in front of us? So On top of all that is just the general interest and appeal. Teachers, this is not their first rodeo. They know what the textbooks look like. They know how their students respond to them. So they get one, they go, this is just dry. I don't like this at all. Or they go, wow, I love these features. And they even look at stuff like, we had one teacher who surveyed them on the margin setup. Did they like more white space, or did they like more glossy pictures? So we looked at all these factors to determine what we were going to select. Now, normally, you're familiar probably with the term textbook caravan. That's where the publishers come in, put on a dog and pony show, and try and sell us on their textbook. Well, with it being summer and us coming out of the pandemic, that does not occur, or at least did not in this current adoption. So instead of a textbook caravan that was halted kind of during the pandemic, has not yet fully resumed, we held our own district office meetings where we looked at these in detail. Each school was provided copies to review, and they came equipped with their responses where they rated them on those factors we mentioned before in terms of addressing the standards and everything else. So each school sent a teacher rep and their assistant principal for curriculum and instruction. So they shared feedback. They developed a consensus as a group, and they selected a text to put in front of you tonight. At each of these meetings, teachers worked through a document from the STEM Center examining each of the textbooks and resources. So we used a rubric that looked at them rather objectively, tried to score them, and then came to the table. So if it was close, we had a debate on it. But for the most part, consensus came very easy, and we came to a group decision. So through this process and further collaboration, we tried to make the best choice for a text that was going to meet the state standards. There are your lists. I believe you were supplied with this in your board packet. So we're really looking, in sociology, that was one of the courses that only had one option. So we could choose to have a new book, or we just keep the old ones. And then you'll notice that the E-Dynamic Learning for Physical Education, that is an online textbook. And our PE teachers were passionate about, look, we don't have a normal classroom, so toting something back and forth may not be as conducive as an electronic copy. We don't have to keep those in the gym anywhere. This is going to be a great option. And they looked at both the hard copy and the electronic, but settled on that. And then there were numerous options for environmental science, CP and AP, as well as the others. So these are the texts that you that you walk away from, just kind of the covers of what they've selected. And again, at the end of the day, there were representatives from all of the high schools. They gave their feedback. They came to consensus as a group, selected state-approved topics, and we want to put those in front of you tonight for approval. So at this time, I would hear any questions, comments, or concerns.
These will be in effect for the school year that starts on Monday?
So as soon as we order these, as soon as you approve them, we will order them, and it'll take some time to get them in. So realistically, we're not looking at an implementation in the fall. They'll continue to use the old text in these courses, but I want to get them in soon so that the teachers have an opportunity to go ahead and start planning so they can look at it through the fall for maybe implementation in the spring semester or even next year, just depending on when that course is. I know one school mentioned we only have sociology in the fall. Well, if that's the case, you have a whole year to prepare for implementation. Good question.
So they don't have to do anything post-haste?
No, ma'am.
This is a little bit off topic, but does the state ever publish the data or feedback that they receive on text materials? Just out of curiosity.
No, sir.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Okay.
I know this year they held some of the feedback periods during December. They post it on their public
Right.
website.
No, I've seen it. I just don't know if they
I don't know if
ever
they-
shared their results.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I did, Molly Spearman told the superintendents that a lot of questions on some of the social studies books this year, and they went back with the concerns to the publishers, and they made changes, the national publishers in some cases, so. Supposedly it's been vetted by the South Carolina folk.
I should also add that I've placed hard copies of the text that were proposed on the back copy out in this hallway if you would like to review it any further.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the administration for the 6 textbooks as presented this evening for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a recommended set of 6 textbooks as presented. Any further discussion? I count 7.
No, it
Oh, it's the word science that goes over on the
Carried
second
down.
line. I'm like, I counted, there's seven.
did the same.
Okay.
I'll try and form it better next time.
Any further discussion besides my ability to count? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Thank you. And then we turn to you.
Okay, great. Let's start with the calendar of events, then I'll talk a little bit about enrollment for what we know right now before we start. It's been a busy week, a busy couple of weeks. We started last week, but before I talk about those days, we started last week with administrative in-service and a lot of excited administrators on our retreat. And we're meeting tomorrow with several groups of teachers at the Catawba Ridge High School. And so there's a group of people, I see it in their faces. I don't know if it's just being back to some kind of normalcy, or there's a lot of excited educators ready to go. And we're excited. It's been 2 years of stop and go, and we ended up in a go last year, the last part of the year. And I think everybody's just looking at, just eagerly anticipating seeing people's faces. So instead of looking at a Zoom meeting, so a lot of excitement on the teachers side. They returned Monday, the 8th. If you look at the calendar, of course, the board meeting tonight, first day for students, Monday morning, the 15th. And I think board members are invited to attend, pick a school and go help us. We're going to try to get around to all the schools, several of us at the district level. And but if you want to help us welcome the new kids, just let us know which school or schools. I'm sure some of you will
I'll
be
be
there.
delivering a young fifth grader.
Okay, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. Yeah, I've got a granddaughter going. And then, of course, the board meeting on the 23rd. You have your conference listed there, your school law conference for the end of the month in Greenville this year. So it's usually in, the beach?
Usually at the
Madison,
beach
is it?
somewhere, but,
This one's usually Charleston.
and it is the 26th through the 28th, not the,
Okay,
Yeah, it's not the 3 days, it's 2.
it's
okay.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday instead of Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
No, Saturday, Sunday only.
I guess
It's
the
check-in
conference part,
Friday.
yeah, the conference part is
It
Saturday.
starts Saturday at 8 o'clock.
Okay, and then you get on into September, the Labor Day holiday on the 5th. Notice the board meeting, we moved from the 6th to the 7th because that gives us a day to get back and prepare for the meeting. So it's a Wednesday board meeting. Then you go to the regular meetings. The board visits to Fort Mill High, Gold Hill Middle, Gold Hill Elementary, and TKK are on the 12th. And then the second board meeting, if necessary, on the 20th. And then we have the 2-hour early release day for students for teacher planning. The first one of those, I think we had 6 approved in the calendar. Am I right about that? For teacher planning, and that's on the 30th of September. So that's kind of a lookout ahead. Any other dates board members might want to mention?
There is a COSBA, which is the new national organization that SCSBA is a part of and founding members and guiding force with. They are having a diversity and equity, and I can't think of what all they've added to it off the top of my head right now. But that will be in Atlanta, the 8th through the 10th, I think, so I will be there for that. And I presume that we're going to do a big splash reminder with regard to the September 30th, so that everybody is planning their calendars accordingly to make sure that they remember
Yeah, I
that it's
think
an early
Joe's got
release.
you got some information going out Thursday of this week for the parents, right, Joe? For the return to school, but I mean, she's talking about later in the month. I'm sure we'll
For the
do
30th, for that
Make sure
first
everybody knows
early
about the
release
2-day
day.
I mean, the 2-hour early release.
Okay,
Right.
right.
And it's not listed here, but I do think this week, all the schools, and I think they're all on the same day, but I don't promise, are having all their meet the teacher, freshman orientation, all of those kind of things happening so that they,
Everybody's ready to go.
Elementary Thursday morning, middle Wednesday,
okay, and
And
then
high
high school
school
Thursday
Thursday.
night.
so the schools will be alive once again with
Yes, they
activity.
will.
Parents, teachers,
Like the best
students,
time ever.
fun stuff. Good time of year. Any other dates? let's talk a little bit about enrollment. I sent you some numbers, and the reason these numbers, I consider them suspect at the very least, because all we do at this time of year, in other words, you're not counted in our enrollment until you actually attend.
Right.
So we think we're gonna have over 18,000 attendees, but we can't count them today a week ahead of time until, we can't get funding for them until they actually, show up. So these are numbers pulled in the computer that were on the roll last year, and then we've already, and what we've enrolled during the summer. This does not include roughly 300 kids who are in the queue, who are still to be tested and will be, and that's the ones we know about. We always have walk-ups to.
Those are ones that have actual appointments to register, but just haven't registered yet.
Haven't registered. So the numbers I sent you, I sent some updated numbers. These are 18,019, and we ended the year at 17,875. But if you add the 300, it goes up to 18,2 or 3 or so. And I think what we found so far, though, that's going to be different about this year. I think we projected. How many did you budget on, Leanne? 18,604. We budgeted on 18,600. I think the difference this year, we've noticed a little bit of flat numbers on kindergarten. Kindergarten registration this year versus this time last year, it's less, and hadn't happened in years. We usually grow a little more than the last one. We have a large 4th or 5th grade going through the bubble. So we've had to shift already one kindergarten teacher at one school to a 4th grade.
Well, and you've got a huge 9th grade class.
And a huge,
It's bigger than any other grade.
But you don't know how many of these people, these are who are in the computer at the end of the year. We don't know who's not going to return, and there'll be some of that. We may not find out some of that. We can't withdraw them until we get a records request.
But if we've had the records request,
they're crunched in.
If we know that they've moved or they've gone to another school or whatever, we've taken them out. Okay.
Well, I found it weird. I looked at it from at the different levels, and elementary was down 3%.
Yeah.
Middle school was pretty flat, and then high school's up 6.5%, something like that.
And I
Kind of weird.
was talking with some people today. I think there are a lot of factors. Coming off the pandemic, I'm not sure. A lot of people may have just, particularly 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, just kind of would prefer to keep them in their private setting. I don't know. I don't know why they're not showing up at 5K, and maybe they will yet. The housing market, the interest rate's so high, I'm not sure. I think you're right, Celia. When Elizabeth opens up, we're probably going to see a bump again. We're talking about only growing by 500 instead of 800. I mean, we're still growing.
Exactly.
So it's a unique situation, but we thought we'd be higher at this point. But we typically start out, the first number you'll get as a public is on the first day, and it's usually 150 or 200 short from what we report settling in on the 10th day. You'll see some number, and it's liable to be in the high 17s, and you'll say, wow, where are all the kids? But just wait.
Right.
They
Well,
come.
and we phase in kindergarten because they phase in their start, so that always
Stagger the kindergarten start.
takes a minute to catch up.
That throws the number off too, yeah. So it really settles in. And then typically during the year, we grow. You see the monthly report. So there'll be some months that are flat, but usually we grow a little bit each month. So I suspect when the dust settles, we're probably going to be somewhere in that 18.6 or so. But who knows? Maybe we won't. I do know, and we've said this publicly. We are about 1,000 more than Rock Hill, which is amazing to me. When we were the smallest school district in York County in 1995, and now look what's happened. Well, you can tell when you try to go to the grocery store where they all are. You can't drive around without stress on the infrastructure. But so I share these numbers kind of. I don't put a lot of faith in them until we actually see what's happening. But that's where we are as far as the computer is concerned.
So the only question I would have is specifically for kindergarten, because it is so much lower than all the other grades. Do we have any concern if a whole lot more show up?
No, we've got room.
Okay, because we still, other than the 1 or 2 teachers that we've shifted, we've got we've got capacity for the other 200 that we thought we were gonna have.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Anything else to share?
No, just that, the excitement part, I'm so, you go out into schools and you get so you get so energized seeing them, and the teachers are so excited, and we, just so excited about having parents back in and kids, and, I just think it's gonna be sort of like starting all over. The last 2 years, we've started kinda, timidly
Tentatively.
Kinda wonky.
started, and it hadn't been normal, so I think everybody's just so ready to be normal.
Amen.
Agreed.
All right, if there's nothing further from you, then we are in need of an executive session to discuss personnel recommendations, legal issues, and contractual issues.
Motion to go into executive session?
All right, we will move into executive session. Thank you.